this is the weird thing, but we talk about London potentially feeling quite unsafe at the moment. We got the phone thefts getting out of hand. There are, there was the young lad that was stabbed for his watch outside Nusret in London. But I did see a good video online where this guy said, but back in the day, Peckham, Hackney, he's like, there's always been this many murders and deaths and stabbings and whatever. He goes, it's now just in the posh parts. It's now in the places where before London was like, you just don't go to these areas.
Yeah.
We leave them alone. And actually that suffering was just kind of brushed under the carpet.
Well, the problems belong to the people that endured them, right? It wasn't seen as a societal problem.
Now it's kind of come out. I've seen something, they call it like the London banana. It's like a shape where you've got Southwest London and then I suppose Northwest London. They're like, if you stay in that banana, you're fine. But if you go anywhere else, it's a shithole. But so they're like, you can hold your phone in that area, but you go any further out and you can't.
Do you not find it weird that if we focused on like some more speculative work as opposed to, we know what the cost is at the end of the trip, right? We know what it costs to families who lose kids, whether that's because they are the victim or perpetrator, right? I would argue they're both victims. That's not to take away from anyone who loses a friend, a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter, any of that. But there's areas it's happening and there's areas that it isn't. There are backgrounds people come from where it's more likely for people to find their way into crime. And there are backgrounds that people come from where they are more likely to find their way into a decent university. It's poverty. We can talk about zombie knives being the problem. Most people are stabbed to death with kitchen knives. Zombie knives are not the fucking problem. Poverty is the problem. And what we're doing about it, there's no speculation. There's less. We had 14 years of a government that just robbed, that just took from the bottom.
Because I was excited to sit here as well today because I grew up in Berkshire, in Windsor, between Windsor and Ascot, where, then I went to school in Surrey and everyone's like, you're fucking posh.
Poverty still exists there, right?
It does. But then I would say that as far as safety, crime, actually one of my best friends now grew up in like North London, Tottenham. And he was saying that there were times that he wouldn't feel safe walking home from school. And he's Turkish, and there was Haringey, and there was like all of these kind of different areas. And for me, growing up where I was, it was completely fine. There wasn't any of that. And of course, you'd say that maybe areas like Bracknell, further out closer to Reading, they've got these areas, but nothing compared to London. And as far as the opportunity, then the schools, the amount of kids per teacher, all of those things, so much of life is actually out of your control. So determinism versus free will. We were having a discussion about this the other day. Well, actually, where you're born, what year you're born, where your family grew up, what school you go to, you can't really change those things. So you're set on a path that you can't really move that far outside of.
No, unless you're an outlier or an exception. I read one of the most infuriating things, please, anyone watching this, I don't read the Daily Mail. I was in a doctor's surgery waiting for an appointment, and the only thing to read there was the Daily Mail. And I've opened it, and it was the year the Olympics were in London, and they had 3 black athletes, and they went on this long spiel about how anyone can do anything they want if they work hard enough, which is absolute bullshit, because for each of those athletes, there's thousands of people who wanted to do exactly what they did, that met something in life which meant they couldn't, or they didn't keep going.
This survivorship bias where, if you, do you remember Darren Brown, the magician?
Yeah.
There was a show online where there was a horse race, and he found a woman and he gave her 6 predictions, and every single one won. Then on the 7th, he gets her to save all the money she can. She places a bet. And he goes, there is no system. I started off with 9,000 people. It was a 9-horse race. 8,000 people lost. Then there was 1,000 people. It was a 5-horse race. And then this many people lost. He said, there is no system. You're just the last person left of 9,000 people. And she was like, you've just got me to bet everything. But before they said that, it made it was almost as if you could believe there was a system, like you say with the athletes. Again, myself, where sometimes I can feel fraudulent giving people advice on social media, because in some respects, when I was born was so influential, because I was about 26, 27 when I started on Facebook. If I was 5, 10 years older, people would go, come on, granddad, get the fuck off Facebook. If I was 8, 9 years younger, they go, come on, mate, you haven't even got fucking facial hair. What are you going to tell me about life?
This is an embarrassment. I don't have to shave. I just do 60 and stick my head out the window. That's on the motorway, by the way, not like in a 20 mile an hour zone.
I was the same. I couldn't get facial hair. And I did 6 months in New Zealand playing rugby, and I worked on a farm. I came out of facial hair.
Right.
Actually, the cold conditions of, I think I became a man. I worked on a sheep shearing farm for like 3 months, and I came back a man. Anyway, to digress. So yeah, you got the survivorship bias from it. And I again hate that, where people say, oh yeah, if you just work really hard, you'll be fine. Again.
My nan worked really hard. She wasn't fine.
Yeah.
It really upsets me, because she would work 3 jobs.
And then you're at a disadvantage with energy, with opportunity, with
enthusiasm, happiness, joy, connectivity, the absence of healthy relationships because you're not able to spend time with people, right?
And again, even one thing that I knew that I've come to realize more is one of the best economic decisions you can make, irrespective of love or whatever, is to be in a decent relationship. When you share a house together, and one thing I'd probably politically at the moment don't potentially like is how much we'll lean into extremes of ideology to say, oh, you know, we should be acceptive of this, acceptive of that, but we don't promote like a nuclear family enough. You know, we're saying to people, hey, if you get married and you live together, first of all, you can share the bills between you. One of you can cook as the other one can look after the children. Potentially, one of you can do chores as the other one works, or all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Where we don't promote that enough and people are getting married later, people will get in relationships later, we've got dating apps, we've got internet, we've got all these dynamics. We're kind of overlooking one of the best things that people can have. So like you say, if you're single, working 3 jobs, living in a rough part of London where you got all of these disadvantages, saying to someone, oh, just work harder. It's a bit of a slap in the face.
It is a slap in the face. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? But it's relied upon, right? Because then, again, the problems that people go through are belonging to them and they're not a societal problem. It is their fault because they should work harder. They shouldn't have made the decisions they were made, but we're not looking at the choices they're given.
Again, when it comes to crime, for instance, I don't think this is not even me to think. I think with people, they do have choices, but if I've got the choice of working in a dead-end job where no one respects me for minimum wage, or there's a gang affiliation nearby where I can get respected, I can get brotherhood, I can get a hierarchy, I can actually climb the ranks.
But you can also be used and leveraged.
Yeah.
And abused.
Yeah, there's that side of it. But I think, again, there I could maybe get to a place where I could not only support myself, I could potentially support my family. There are some people that will get into crime because that means they can look after the people around them. I don't really think that many people are.
Well, I used to, I knew someone who he did what he did because if he didn't, his mum would have to do other things for the heroin that she was using.
Yeah.
So
it's a protective
mechanism. So, you know, what are the options there?
And again, this is where things can get dark very quickly because then it becomes, you've got it, I don't. I need this. And we're very primitive humans. We're very tribal. You think for the amount of time that we spend as tribes. Yeah. I even saw a documentary on the amount of car thefts in London at the moment, which for me is frightening. Coming from Australia, I saw this Jaguar the other day. I went steering lock and I thought they'd been given a clamp. I thought they parked illegally. My mate was like, nah, they put the clamp on and the steering lock.
Oh, right.
I was like, it's a 25 grand car. You double bubbled it to stop it getting nicked. And he was saying, yeah, this is normal. Yeah. This is more like, you know, we're not even.
In Richmond, then,
yeah. I was like, it's supposed to be a nice area. Yeah. Every house here is over £1 million. And you got like.
Isn't that just London now, though?
Yeah. But I think that, you know, they say if you put a frog in hot water and slowly heat it up, it'll boil to death, which I found out isn't true. But that's almost.
Did you do it yourself?
Not yet. No. In London, everyone's kind of like, oh, it's just normal. You get your phone nicked, you know. Whereas in Sydney, because we're further behind, or maybe it's just culturally a little bit different, we don't really expect that. I think this is crazy. But there was a documentary of this guy who was like, boo-hoo, you got your range stolen, buy another one. And he was like, you got the money for one, you got the money for two.
But that's just not the case, is it?
Exactly.
Yeah. And also, I've done things, right? I've sold things, but I've never taken. I don't believe in thieving. And that's not to say that that's everyone's moral compass, but I just couldn't. I would work. The thing that I was taught growing up is that it doesn't matter what you do for work within reason, but as long as you work. And that's something that I'm really grateful for. Even though there were things I did that weren't legal. You know, I never sold crack and I never sold smack and I never stole. I did pretty much everything else.
But this is another thing that could be a controversial opinion of mine. So the criminal system, we just look at it as like legal and illegal, but I don't think we look at victimless crimes and crimes of victims. So for instance, if you were to sell someone some marijuana or some cocaine and they would use it for personal use, or they were corporate going out on a night out, there's no real victims there. Fair enough, this person might have an addiction, it might be bad for society as a whole, but no one's really, you know, suffering that. Where you steal someone's car, someone comes out, they saved up the money, got the deposit, they would have had that emotional day to collect the car, they would have had like a great show.
Which is now going to go through the roof.
They're going to go out, and then that trauma of seeing something you once had and loved gone, you've now got to call your insurance, get the new car, have your premiums go up, pay that off for the rest.
And there's other items, right, that you could have on your person. It could be a tenner in your pocket that you could die over, which is pretty severe.
And the phone thing as well, like privacy, you might have photos on there of a late pet or a loved one or whatever it is. You might not have backed it up. And the fact that now it's almost acceptable for someone to come past on an e-bike and trade it in 50 quid, 100 quid.
Yeah.
It's fucked.